Good morning. This is a public meeting of the Indiana Arts Commission convened to review arts project support grants for fiscal year 2024 from Region 2. This includes Elkhart, Fulton, Kosciuszko, Marshall, St. Joseph, and Stark counties. My name is Sonia Nash. I'm the Executive Director of the LaGrange County Convention and Visitor Bureau, and I will be facilitating the panel today. Today is Monday, April 24th, 2023, and we are meeting online and streaming live for applicants and the public to observe. There is no contact between the panel and the audience about the disposition of applicants before, during, or after the panel meeting. This meeting will be recorded and be made available upon request. At this time, I will individually invite each of the panelists to introduce themselves, stating their names and organizations. Please welcome Corey Humes.
Good morning. I am Corey Humes. I'm with the Kosciuszko County Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Thank you. Good morning, Rachel Jones.
Good morning. My name is Rachel Jones, and I'm the Development Director at Fort Wayne Dance Collective.
Thank you. Good morning, Marty Lucas. Are you with us, Marty?
I think he's muted.
All right. My name is Marty Lucas, and I'm under contract with the publicresource.org, which is located in California, but I'm located here in North Judson, Indiana.
Thank you. Good morning, Mary Perrin.
Good morning. I'm Mary Perrin. I am with the Stark County Economic Development Foundation in Knox.
Thank you. Good morning, Shannon Stump.
I think you're muted, Shannon.
Yep. Good morning. I'm Shannon Stump. I'm with no organization, lover of the arts.
Thank you, Shannon. Good morning, Mary Woodworth.
Hi, I'm Mary Woodworth. I'm the Director of LaGrange County Arts.
Thank you. And joining us today, we have Kayla Myers. Good morning, Kayla. Introduce yourself.
Good morning. I'm Kayla Myers with the Community Foundation of St. Joseph County and the IAC Region 2 Arts Partner.
Also joining us today from IAC is Andre.
Good morning, everyone. Andre Sanxonera, Deputy Director of Operations and Strategic Partnerships.
Thank you, Andre. And finally, but not least, good morning, staff member Connie from IAC.
Hi, thank you so much, Sonia. I'm Connie Braun, Marketing Communications Director.
Thank you, everyone. We appreciate everyone's time and energy up to this point and throughout our journey today. Now let's begin the panel review, which is the exciting part. This is how the process will work. I will announce the application we will review and ask the first reader to begin the discussion. The first reader will provide their assessment of the application based upon the evaluation criteria and their perspective. Panelists, please note that the applications do not need to be recapped since everyone has read it. Just provide your comments that reflect back to the criteria that is established. After the first reader is finished, I will ask the second reader to present any new, additional, or opposing comments. We're not looking for consensus during our review this morning. We're just looking for a full evaluation from the different perspectives that each of you as panelists bring to the table. After the second reader is finished, I will open the discussion for final comments. Remember, in the interest of time, we're only looking for new, additional, or opposing viewpoints. At any point, if you have a question regarding specific criteria that you were not able to answer, you are welcome to ask it. Perhaps another panelist can answer, as long as the information provided reflects back to the criteria. If a panelist has a conflict of interest, that panelist will be placed in the virtual waiting room while the application is being reviewed, and we will note that at the beginning of each application review. Finally, once the application has been finished being reviewed by the full panel, we ask the panel to update their scores in the online system. It is common for scores to change as a result of the broader discussion. Those scores are saved automatically on the online system. In accordance with our schedule this morning, we will not be planning to take a break. We have 13 applications to review, and we will be conducting them in order as provided. Are there any questions? If so, I would ask the panelists to unmute and please share. Seeing no questions, let's begin. We'll start with the application from Cardinal Services. Cardinal Services has our first assigned reader of Rachel Jones and the second reader of Corey Humes. Rachel, please begin.
Thank you and good morning. So starting off, I wanted to point out, I really appreciated learning that this organization has worked with a contractor to kind of review their programs, the organization. And I could really tell that this project was crafted and refined based on feedback that had been gathered through that process. So I appreciated that being included. I would have loved a little bit more explanation of financial benefit to participating artists. I know that it was kind of mentioned in the budget, but as somebody who isn't a visual artist, I would have loved to have known just a little bit more about how that works and how that benefit is seen for the artists. And in the future, I was curious to know, because there are individuals who are going to be volunteering their time. Are we looking at stipends for those people? Kind of, is there any direction there? I also, sorry, scrolling. So I really appreciated the focus on creative entrepreneur. That word is so hard for me. Entrepreneurialism. Okay, I'm just going to move on. Development in this project. It was really clear. And that can be such a valuable hands-on experience for participants. I also wanted to note that this application stated that they're looking at adding an online component. And I was curious to know how this component would help enhance accessibility. Were there any specific features and platforms that they're looking for, or any strategies around this that would help the project reach even more people? For project management, I appreciated learning the background of Mr. Young and was curious about any information on any identified volunteers that would be supporting his work. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate that. Corey.
Good morning. I will second all of those great comments from Rachel. I was very excited to hear about the accessibility of the arts at the Red Bird Studio. And I found that could be very impactful for mental health for all of those. I did have a couple thoughts in moving forward, is if there was any way to expand on the weight of sharing what that positive and mental health impact is to those artists that are participating in that program would be lovely, wonderful, as well as I noted very possibly basically, and I could have misread, was the income in the Arts Commission clarity regarding, was it going back to the artist or just for the operation of the studio, which made sense, but I just wanted a little more clarity if any of the artists participating get a commission of any kind. And I did like to see how there was a local retired art professor participating and assisting in staffing. I don't think I have any other comments. It was a great opportunity for the communities.
Thank you, Corey. At this time, we'll open it up to the full panelist list. If there are any new, additional, or opposing comments to share, please unmute yourself. Marty, yes.
Yeah, I do. I have a couple of comments or questions. One thing I want to always preface this with is maybe I missed something. So I think this is an opportunity to be corrected.
Yes.
Hope you'll all jump in and do that. And this won't be the last time I say that probably. But two things drew my attention. One was the art sales, 40% goes to the agency and 60% goes to the artists. And, I'm okay with certainly the agency getting a substantial share, but I wondered if that wasn't maybe a little high for the agency. I was a little worried about that. And the other one was the geographic scope, or how people that are in the organization get access to the studio. It sort of says it covers a substantial geographic region, but I wasn't sure whether there were efforts to be made to make sure that that people that were interested from throughout the region. I'm particularly in a rural area, and I wonder whether there's provision to get accessibility from this community for those excellent services.
Thank you, Marty. Does anybody else have any comment or response? Rachel.
I am by no means an expert, but I did kind of pull from knowledge that I have. I do believe that 4060 is within the realm of possibility. It's from what I understand and what I know, it's not unheard of. So.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments? If not, we ask you make your final score for Cardinal Services for all of the panelists. When you have finished completing and hit save, submit online, please put a thumbs up so we know we're ready to move on. Didn't see from Mary Woodworth or Marty. Are you, if you're still working, Mary? Okay.
I have a confirmation on my screen.
Okay. And Marty?
Oh, I'm just fumbling around trying to figure out how to get back to my dashboard. Just give me a second and I'll get that, I'm sure. Probably pressing the button. Probably pressing the button return to dashboard would be a good way to get back to the dashboard. So I'm good. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Our next application is from the City of Warsaw Parks and Recreation Department. At this time, Corey Humes has a conflict of interest. Corey is dashing off to the waiting room. And our first reader is Mary Perrin, and our second reader is Shannon Stump. So Mary, please take it away.
I think you're muted, Mary.
Mary, you have to unmute yourself.
Okay, let's try this again. Sorry about that. This is the City of Warsaw Summer Concert Series. And just looking at the evaluation and my comments that I had made on that, the goal of the program is very clearly stated, and the diversity of Indiana artists you're bringing to this free summer concert series is great. And I do agree wholeheartedly, this provides an opportunity for those in attendance to experience genres of music they may not otherwise seek out. As far as the artistic support, each group or performer is receiving a stipend for performing, which I think is great. And then those performers, if it is a group or an ensemble, are responsible for dividing those funds amongst their members. I think that is perhaps the cleanest way to do that. So I thought that was very good as well. Under the next, I'm scrolling here. Let's see. Offering these shows for free, again, just can't say enough about that, especially, with the cost of everything going up and being a barrier for people to experience things outside of their normal budget, I think is a wonderful way to reduce barriers to attendance. And I also am very impressed the planning process draws heavily on survey responses. And I think that's a key factor in the success and longevity of this program. The attention to detail for handicap accessibility is fantastic. Not only are the venues themselves accessible, but so are the paths from the parking lots to the venues. That's something that can be easily overlooked. And major props for family-friendly shows. That's not always the case sometimes, but I think if you really lean into that in your marketing, that will help to bring an audience as well. So those are my comments.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mary. Our second reader is Shannon. Shannon, do you have any additional comments that you'd like to share?
Yeah, a couple things that I was wondering about was who develops the surveys and how does the public have access to the surveys? And sounds like they have given surveys in the past, and just wondering like what is the return rate of those surveys? Because it sounds like there's lots of people in attendance, but out of all those people, how many people actually fill out the surveys? And then the stipend to the band is great that they divide it amongst themselves, but I was just curious as to does every band get the same amount, or does it vary according to the experience of the band or the band's following? And then let me see what else. Oh yeah, and then I just noticed that there's a local endowment fund grant in the cash income, and it doesn't state if that fund has already been approved, and if it hasn't been approved yet, how does that affect the budget? So those are just my questions, and I don't know if these are general, like if it's normal to just list other grants that have been applied for. So those were just my questions, and maybe I could have missed all of these while reading it. So that were just my observations.
Thank you, Shannon. At this time, we'll open it up for the rest of the panelists. Perhaps you have an answer to what Shannon asked, or you have additional, new, or opposing comments that you'd like to share regarding the City of Warsaw Parks and Recreation Department application. Marty, I see you unmuted.
I do. I think one of the things you asked about was the compensation to the artists, and some of that is in there. And that was actually one of the things I kind of had a question about. You know, if you look down the project activities timeline, if you look, scroll down to sort of the bottom of that, you see remainder of the budget. For example, the Ball Brothers Gospel Band gets $3,000. The Lake Area Community Band gets $600. The Elvis Impersonator gets $800, and the 80s, band gets $2,500. Now, I'm going to leave out that I will say real quick that I'm not really overwhelmed by the quality of that, but I think it's an arts program, and that's kind of a commercial list of music. It isn't really a particularly adventurous. So that's just my opinion. But one thing I would say is that also is it lists the total amount of people benefited is 39, and I guess that includes all the members of the concert band, and they got $600. So I really don't know whether they're getting any direct compensation to the performers, and I'm actually okay with that, because I think people in a band like that are probably doing it really on a volunteer basis, and they're enjoying it, and what they're really interested in is the money going to the organization to keep it going. However, I think the documentation shouldn't say that those are direct payments to those musicians, because they're probably not. Thanks.
Thank you, Marty. Are there any other additional comments? Opposing, new? Seeing no additional hands raised at this point, we'll ask you make your final score for the City of Warsaw Parks and Recreation Department. Please give a thumbs up when you've completed your final score. Make sure and hit send, submit. Everyone has completed. We'll ask Corey to be brought back in from the waiting room. Thank you, everyone, for completing that application. And Corey now joins us again. Our next application is the Downtown Goshen Inc. application. Our first reader is Marty Lucas, and our second reader is Mary Woodworth. At this time, Marty, please take it away.
Thank you. This is essentially a street art fair. Going down the various criteria, this is the artistic quality. On this one, this is downtown Goshen, right?
Downtown Goshen Inc.
Right. One of the things about the artistic quality, this is like kind of a two-way thing. It appears that the admission to being one of the artists is decided by the artistic guilds that are based in the Goshen area. And first of all, I think that's great that they have that. And I think artists, running arts is just the way it ought to be as much as possible. I mean, I know that it's partly a tourism thing, but I just think arts also have an inherent value, and that artists should be intimately involved. So I think that's really good, but I had a little concern to make sure that how do we know that they're not being exclusive of artists that would be good in the program, but maybe they're not joiners, or maybe they're hard to get along with. Some of the best artists in history have been really hard to get along with. So I was concerned about the accessibility to this program, which I think is, is otherwise quite good. I think their effort at making this art out to the public is exemplary. This is a great way to get people to look at art who maybe wouldn't feel comfortable going into a gallery. I think a lot of people wouldn't feel comfortable. They go, oh, that's not for people like us, but they see it on the street, and all of a sudden they go, maybe it is for people like us, because I think this is pretty neat stuff. So I think that's a really good one. And I think the project management is really solid on this. I had no concerns with that at all. And the only little tiny quibble is I felt like this was a kind of a lively, fun project, but I thought the documentation for public, for where to go and all that, it was very professional and modern, but it could have maybe had a little more fun to try to draw more people into it. So that's a very minor thing. That's more of like something to encourage them to maybe be a little more adventurous in the way that they depict this fun event. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Marty. Mary Woodworth, any additional new or opposing comments?
I think the only additional one, they talk about their multiple ethnicities in their city. I would have liked to have heard what some of those ethnicities were. And whether or not they employ like a multilinguistic advertising for those different ethnicities that they're trying to reach out for. Let's see, and I think that was about the only thing different from what Marty had to say.
If I could just jump over, thank you. I forgot to say that. That was a really good point.
Oh.
Wonderful. We'll open it up to the rest of the panelists. Did anybody else have any questions, comments? I see Mary Perrin's hand raised. Mary.
Yes, and let me get back to my evaluation tab, because I agree with what Marty and Mary said. With everything, I just wanted to, and maybe, I mean, I could be interpreting this wrong, but on the timeline, I was just a little bit curious why the photography and thank you notes will not be posted or sent until a month after the event. I get it. Thank you notes take time. Take your time with those. I mean, of course, within reason, but the photography, that would seem you would want to generate a buzz, during and immediately after the event. The professional photography, I understand takes some time. But I was just going to suggest maybe encouraging attendees to share their photos with some sort of an event appropriate hashtag to create some real-time buzz around the event as it's going on and in the immediate aftermath until the professional photos are ready to be posted. Because, let's face it, everyone's got a nice camera in their pocket these days, for the most part, with a smartphone, and just another way to encourage some audience participation. And just one other quick note, I really like, as Marty had said, drawing people into spaces where they might not experience art or expect art, and keeping it all accessible on first floors of buildings and things like that. Very thoughtful and appreciated, but that's the only thing I had to add.
Thank you. I see Corey's hand up. Corey, please unmute yourself and share.
Hi, I wanted to also, this I really enjoyed seeing the diversity as well as in all of the local businesses for that downtown event was such a great way of expanding that. My one question was regarding the art support, and I guess I believe all the panelists so far have mentioned this, is we know that there was at least 10 artists that were getting stipends. I'm guessing those were for the acoustic performance. I was wondering if there was any other way to add or addition to sharing if there was the artists that were part of this in those different areas of businesses saw any sales or commissions off there just to add to the grant process to show that, hey, yes, this is a great tourism event, but we're also showing that the artists are getting some compensation and participation. Just my last thought.
Thank you. Communication and details is what I'm hearing, right? In applications. So we ask any other comments? If not, we ask you make, oh, Mary Woodworth, did you have?
Yes, I scrolled on down and there was one other thing that I had written down, and this might be a case of mine just not understanding enough of the process. But as I was looking at the staffing fees, it said staffing fees, and that was 2/3 of the expense of the budget. And I did not fully understand what staffing fees would include. So to me, that made it appear as though the artists were who benefited the least from this budget. So
did
if anyone
anybody
could
see an
explain what
answer to that
staffing
question?
costs.
If not, if no one saw an answer to that question, yes, Rachel.
Typically when staffing costs are included in expenses, that's like the program manager, the program coordinator, kind of the person on staff who they're like 40-hour-a-week job or part-time job or whatever is the implementation of the program. So my assumption is staffing costs for that would be like an employee.
Of the application.
Yes, thank you. Like I say, I did write that in there because I did not want to just assume, because I wasn't sure what it was. And so I don't know if that would be something that would be beneficial in the future. If someone has a large staffing fee in there, if there would be some type of an explanation so that if someone like myself who didn't know what it meant would better understand it.
Sure, that's an excellent point for better clarification. Any other comments or questions about the Downtown Goshen Inc. application? Seeing no hands raised, we ask our panelists, make your final score, make sure and hit save on the computer, and show me your thumbs up when you got it. I think we're waiting on Marty.
I'm good. It's just my reaction from the server is kind of slow here.
Oh, computers, technology. No problem. All right. Thank you, everyone, for participating. We'll move to our next application. We're moving to another downtown, this time Downtown South Bend, Inc. Our first reader is Corey, and our second reader is Mary Perrin. So Corey, please take it away.
Oh, yeah, better unmute myself. Oh, sorry. This was, first of all, great application to read. I've been aware of this event for many years, but did not understand the amount of visitors and impact that this does have to the South Bend, Northern Indiana region. A couple, in my opinion, they had some great marketing opportunities. Especially, I'm a proponent of being able for all artists to be able to reach different areas of the Northern Indiana region that they are. So it was nice to see that there were so many different counties involved and Michigan involved in being there and supporting arts on that in all different capacities. One constructive thought was that I was thankful to see that there was history regarding the event and the artistic benefit to the community, the number of visitors and things from a visitors bureau. That's incredible for us to hear. I was the one thing, and I know this probably is very hard to share, is we know that directly this project doesn't benefit the artists directly being paid, but I don't know through their surveying. I know that they do some substantial aftermarket surveying versus the seeing if there was, how did those vendors do during that process? Not sure if that would be helpful for future grants, sharing that, hey, they made this type of impact and were able to sell this much during that one day would be another additional great benefit for that. I enjoy the equal opportunity. It was equal, free to the community, which is probably why there's such large numbers. And I feel the budget and the scale and timeline and the staff, it seems like it is a well-oiled machine. I don't have any other comments at this time, but I enjoyed reading this grant.
Great. Thank you, Corey. Mary Perrin.
Okay, I managed to successfully unmute myself, so we've got that going for us. I agree with Corey. This was a really well put together application. I really liked the feedback from all of the involved parties and the implementation of their suggestions about focusing on quality versus quantity to make the day both more manageable and enjoyable for everyone. And this, you know, I'm going to call it out because they put it in their application. Thank you to this organization for exercising greater discretion over the types of exhibits you allow and not letting an art event turn into a craft fair. Not discounting craft fairs, but that's not what you've got going on. You're not trying to attract that audience. So thank you for being very judicious in that. And let me see what some of my other comments are here. If there's anything else to add. Again, I really like the input from the artists and the community. The partnerships with the local nonprofit organizations to ensure greater reach are a fantastic way to tear down some barriers to accessibility to this event. And the media partnerships to promote it are also critical. And it looks like a lot of thought was put into things like mitigating trip hazards and things like that. I don't have mobility limitations per se, but I can fall up a flight of stairs. So I appreciate that very much. And I like having the prior participants in the event as some of your volunteers. The fact they would want to come back and be a part of it in a subsequent year on a volunteer basis is, you know, that's really telling. And I think the timeline is very detailed and reasonable as well. And those are my comments.
Thank you, Mary. Excellent. And I'll think of you every time I see a staircase now. So I appreciate that. We'll open it up now to the rest of the panelists. Any additional comments, new, opposing? I see Rachel's hand. Rachel, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of build on something Corey said earlier in regard to compensation and financial benefit. One of the things that was noted in this application is that the cost to participate is considerably lower than other opportunities. I would have loved to have known what maybe some of those other like peer costs are, as well as what the one is specifically for this. Just a little more detail around that to show kind of ways that you're ensuring that people can access this so that we can really clearly see how this is benefiting them.
So it's back to context. If you bring up a comment in a grant application, give us the context as panelists. Sure, that makes sense. Marty, I see your hand up.
One thing, I think this also leverages off of what Corey brought up, which is you know, the zeros on artists' direct support. And you know, I'd like to just throw this out there for maybe, you know, this is a big operation. This is a big project. And with big things, you know, you get big trouble, you get some big opportunities too. And just throw out there that maybe that shouldn't be zeros there with the scale of this. If you want to improve the artistic quality of the project, one way is to select some artists that you really want to have come and pay them to appear. That's the way races get the best runners. They give them appearance fees. And so even if they don't have a good day, they still get paid, you know, and with art, maybe they don't sell anything, you know, but this way you get some people to come and you're still exposing the public to that. So maybe consider actually, you know, getting rid of those zeros and putting, you know, some numbers there.
Thank you. Are there, yes, Mary, you unmuted.
Yes, I just, as far as that is concerned, I agree. Because I've always just, gotten some heartburn off of the proposition that, well, you're being compensated with exposure. Because no offense, but exposure doesn't pay the bills. But I also, trying to look at the other side of that, the fact there are so many artists returning year to year, maybe they're okay with that. Maybe they make enough in sales or exposure or whatever to be okay with that. But I agree. I would like to see them get a little, at least something, beyond the exposure.
Thank you. Any additional comments? If not, we ask you make your final score for Downtown South Bend Inc. Make sure and hit save and raise your thumb and let me know when you're done. I think I'm waiting on Shannon. Otherwise, you're all good. Oh, Shannon's good. All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to our next application. This is for the Ensemble Concept /21 Inc. This is in St. Joseph County, and our first reader is Shannon, and our second reader is Rachel. So Shannon, please share.
Okay, so the applicant states that there's no other program in Northern Indiana that provides this educational experience. And I would agree with that. I have never heard of a program like this. It sounds very successful. This is going to be their 10-year celebration, and they're going to be bringing back graduates that have gone through this program. So that kind of speaks to the success of the program. For feedback, I noticed that they have concert conversations that happen after the concert, which that's beneficial, but it also sounds like they are providing surveys, which is good because I feel like sometimes people will be more willing to give their honest opinion on a survey rather than face-to-face concert conversations. And it sounds like they are expanding their outreach and doing performances at other areas. So they're able to reach, other communities. But I was also wondering, for those who aren't able to make it to the concert, there's no transportation or what have you. Is there any possibility of streaming the concerts for those who aren't able to, that don't have transportation? Okay, so it gives a great background on the artists who run the program and just the history and their education. And I just thought it was a great program that I have never heard, and it benefits the artists, the young composers, and provides them with a recording to use for college or just other areas, and it's at no cost to them. So I just thought this was a great program. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Shannon. Rachel, do you have additional, new, or opposing comments?
Sure. Well, first of all, happy 10 years. Yay. I love round numbers like that. So woohoo. I wanted to say that I thought that some of the examples of how you're going to engage the audience were very intriguing. They were very creative, and I thought that that was a really thoughtful touch. Let's see. I also, and I want to preface this by saying I know that geographically this is kind of hard being so close to other states. But I noticed that some of the artists included were like samples from neighboring states. So I wanted to know, would it be possible to provide any context around, are students in a different state, maybe originally from Indiana, or what's their connection back to being a Hoosier? Still, I understand, where we are geographically. We're all still kind of a community, but some more context around that would have been helpful. Let's see. I also wanted to call out, because I would have never realized this, so thank you for including it, how this opportunity removes cost barriers for material creation for college prep. That is, I'm sure, huge for students that are looking to pursue this. And then also those concert conversations. I thought that was a really cool way that you are looking to engage your community and promote learning. I would echo the same things about real-time feedback, but I still do think that some of the feedback gathered in that would absolutely be helpful information. That's my comments.
Thank you. We'll open it up for additional comments from the remaining panelists that you noticed and would like to share. Marty, I see you unmuted.
First of all, I mean, the artistic level of this one is really high. Okay, very high. But there's other characteristics, and I wasn't as positive on the community outreach. I think if you went and looked around, you wouldn't find hardly anybody who ever heard of it, which is a shame because they do beautiful things. And their videos, you know, speaking of the issue of videos, I don't know if anybody went and, you know, managed to scrounge up their videos, and they're very good. The quality of the recording is good. The musicians are excellent. And it's great to hear original compositions, which is, you know, a real challenge for a composer, to, you know, a young composer in particular, but any composer really, to get anybody to actually play their stuff. So it's very significant. Now, the hard part of this one, I think, Rachel kind of brings up, because, you know, it's obvious that they're kind of interested in playing in Chicago, and I don't blame them for wanting to play in Chicago, but I don't know whether the Chicago arts organizations are supporting them, and if they are, I'd feel better about it. But I do, you know, I mean, as much as I'm all for a group from, you know, Indiana based going and playing in Chicago where they can get great exposure, I'm a little uncomfortable with, you know, Indiana Arts Commission supporting that. So I couldn't give them, I mean, I had to like be less than as impressed with their community involvement than I was with the quality of their work, which the quality of their work is top notch. But I think the community involvement could improve. I mentioned like they were going out to the high schools, but we didn't hear which high schools. And I doubt that they're getting geographic balance in the area. And there might be a composer in Plymouth, or a young composer in Plymouth, or a young composer in Warsaw. And they should know about this at least, some kind of serious effort to get to at least the band directors, orchestra directors, that kind of thing. So, young musicians with talent will know that this is out there at least. So that's all I got to say. It's a great thing, but, the community outreach could improve.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Mary Woodward, I see your hand up.
One thing that struck me in this application was that, did I write it down? Everywhere that they were asked to give some type of a response, they told us the who, the what, how, and many times the why for every single response. And I felt that made it a very strong application. I felt that met the criteria from the Indiana Arts Commission at a high level.
Excellent comment. Any additional? If not, we'll ask you make your final score for the Ensemble Concept /21 Inc. Make sure and hit save. Mary Perrin's already got her thumb up. All right, Shannon, there she goes. Rachel, Corey, Marty. Okay, everybody's on time. Great job. Our next application is the Fulton County Historical Society. Our first reader is Mary Woodworth, and our second is Marty Lucas. So Mary, take it away.
All right. Some of the, one of my first comments was, I felt they did an excellent job of giving a lot of information to us. However, at times I felt it could be a little more concise, especially in the description of the project, with a more pointed response as to the financial benefits to the performers. I also felt that a video of the event, if they could have had some type of a montage video of the event to help us see all the different things that do take place, to be able to understand that quality and that connection between all of their offerings, would also be impactful for their marketing as they are trying to market it from one year to the next. And the only other thing I thought is this is such a multi-sensory event. I wondered to what degree have they made compensation for the deaf and the blind? Because deaf people can feel the music, but they can't hear the storyteller if there's not someone. And yes, I understand a lot of a deaf person would most likely either be able to read lips or maybe bring someone with them. But as an organization, I thought that it would be something for them to consider. Do they know of anyone who could perhaps help with that? And for someone who is blind, some of the activities that you could do there, a blind person could still do them, but they would need a little additional help with that. But they would be able to hear the other sounds and smell the sounds of this wonderful historical event. And then in relation to that, if they would have a person who is familiar with these disabilities on their planning committee, just to help enhance that sensory experience for those people. That's all.
Thank you, Mary. Our second reader is Marty. What do you have additional comments you'd like to add?
I do. I mean, I'll preface this by saying my degree is actually in anthropology, and I studied, in particular, I studied Native American archaeology of this region, and so I was really, really impressed by the intimate involvement of the Potawatomis in this, this commemoration of a very painful part of our history. You know, some people don't even want to hear about painful parts of our history, but I think it's real important, and this is the right way to do it. So I gave them really top marks. You know, I just couldn't be more impressed by how they're working to deal with the historic facts and deal with, healing even after all these years for those historic events. So, and I thought their budget was actually pretty good. I mean, I'll be maybe in the minority here and say I like the fact that a significant portion of this is funded by admission fees. I would like to hear whether they have any way to deal with people that are maybe really wanting to come and might not be able to afford the admission fee. That's probably not a lot of people, but I think that's something that they would maybe want to consider. But I think it's great to have these projects partly funding themselves along with grant money and that sort of thing. And it's it has substantial cultural, historic, and artistic merit. And so I would really want to, applaud them for that.
Thank you. We'll open the application process and the review to the rest of the panelists. I see Mary Perrin's hand up. Mary. Mary, you have to unmute yourself. Sorry.
There we go. Sorry about that. I appreciate the way this festival has and continues to evolve. They mentioned local advertising, which is fantastic, but would just a suggestion perhaps to consider some targeted Facebook ads to promote the event beyond Fulton and the immediate surrounding counties. You can get very specific. I mean, almost creepy specific sometimes with who you can target through your social media, but that might be a good means to draw in some people who would really appreciate what you're doing. As far as feedback tools, I would just suggest maybe using tools like SurveyMonkey to gather audience feedback. But I smiled when I saw that you have an old school, old-fashioned suggestion box at the event, because sometimes we can get too caught up in technology and lose track of the simple ways of collecting data from your audience. So, a mix of the old and new, but definitely maybe look into even a small budget for some targeted social media ads, even just to try it out for a year and see if that benefits you.
I concur, Mary. I know that sometimes that Facebook and targeted ads can be fairly minimal in expense. It just takes some time. Corey Humes, I saw your hand up.
I
Just wanted to second Marty's comments related to the impact of this event. It's been going on for 46 years and really sharing its best way to commemorate the atrocities of the Potawatomi Indians in our region. And Mary, I second some of those comments about easily targeting some different demographics to increase their potential visitor base, since they are a admission-based event. So I think that being able to do that and understand that there are events like this that are commemorating as well as sharing that artistic plane would be a great opportunity. So I wanted to second both of your comments on that.
Thank you. Rachel, did I see your hand up? Yes. Please.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of circle back to something that Marty had mentioned. In the narrative, it mentioned that free admission is offered to underserved populations by helping for 4 hours at the festival or before. And I appreciated that, but I also wanted to encourage the thought that 4 hours is a lot of time to be able to just give. So I don't know if there's any way to kind of think about that or think about the accessibility of that, because I know a lot of people, especially those who are encountering financial barriers, might not have 4 hours of their time to just give.
I see Shannon's hand up.
Okay. So I noticed their mission statement is our primary purpose is to preserve history and culture of our county and area. However, I did notice that they have all nationalities are welcome to reenact history, and perhaps the mission statement should be revised to include history from all the areas during that time period. Because for me, I really appreciated that they were honoring the Potawatomi and teaching that history. But I think as I was looking through some of their advertisements and pictures, I got kind of lost. Like I almost saw more pictures for other history that are not from this area. So I think I think their mission statement is awesome, and I think it is a great thing to remember this. But either we focus fully on that, or we do open it up to just history from that time period. I was just a little confused on that.
All good perspectives. Any additional comments? I appreciate everyone's input. If not, no additional ones, please make your final score for the Fulton County Historical Society, Inc. Please hit save and make sure and raise your thumb up. All right, thank you, everyone. We appreciate it. We're halfway through. Are you excited? So now we're moving on to the Goshen Art House. The Goshen Art House has first reader Rachel and our second reader Shannon. So Rachel, take it away, the Goshen Art House.
Thank you. So I had noted that some more information about how the organization has used previous experience to enhance the next project would help align the project to the funding criteria. And then I also had some questions about, have any participating artists been identified at this time? And if not, that's okay. But even just including some examples of previous participating artists would help to give context and demonstrate kind of the connection to community. I also wanted to note, let's see, I got to scroll a little bit. Are there any underserved communities that are represented within the theater community that you're aiming to serve? I know that access to training and skill development opportunities like this are limited, so that could be worth noting as well. I also wondered, do any of the artists have varied backgrounds on your board and committees? Are you including any community members or event attendees in the planning process? I would have loved a little more context there. And then also just a little more information about plans to collect feedback through surveys to artists or audience members. The strategies that were listed were a good foundation, but I would love to know kind of other areas that you're thinking about utilizing to improve and refine. Those are my comments.
Mhm.
Thank you, Rachel. Shannon, please unmute yourself and add any additional, new, or opposing comments.
Okay, I second everything Rachel had to say. I did enjoy the feedback portion where the crowd participates and says who their favorites were for random things, and it sounded like they vote there and then they let the artists know who won the award for whatever, most dramatic, or I can't remember the exact categories that they had. So I did enjoy that. I think one other comment that I had was just elaborating more on how the artists will directly financially benefit from the projects would be helpful in that section. But other than that, I second everything Rachel had to say.
Thank you. We'll open it up to the rest of the panelists. Does anybody else have any? Yes, I see Mary Perrin's hand up. Mary.
Okay, there we go. I just had a couple of quick things and let me jump back to that. I really liked the as able ticketing philosophy, very inclusive to not turn people away if they cannot afford to pay, but as able encourages something. And on the feedback, I just thought maybe adding a few additional open-ended questions to those crowdsourced surveys to gather some more feedback. For instance, what was your favorite part of the festival? Is there anything you would like to see added next year? Just maybe one or two questions like that to get more feedback from the audience, but that's all I have to add.
Thank you, Mary. Marty, I see you unmuted. Please share.
Just real quick, I think this is the artistic quality. I really like this. I think this is high because it really fosters people being involved, a lot of people being involved in the creative process in a kind of a little like, intensive situation, so that there's lots of friends will be made and connections will be made, and that fosters an artistic environment. That's one of the things we should be shooting for, I think.
Thank you. Mary Woodworth.
I just wanted to circle back to what the first reader said about disabilities. I agree with what she said, and I was specifically thinking, you're talking a very aggressive program, which is wonderful, but how would a person with disabilities, any type of physical disability, like a hearing impairment or blindness, or if they are in a wheelchair, what would be the impact on one of their communities if there was someone from one of their communities who was involved in something like this, to show to what extent people with disabilities can also be on par with people who are not disabled.
Thank you. Any additional comments, clarifications? If not, we'll ask you make your final score for the Goshen Art House. Make sure and hit save. Share with me your beautiful thumb and let me know when you're done. All right, everyone is completed. We'll move on to our next application. We're still in Goshen. It's the Goshen Arts and Events application. Our first reader is Corey Humes, and Mary Woodworth is our second reader. So Corey, take it away.
Hello. Yes. I was intrigued very much by this, and where I know that this event has been occurring for 9 years, and this was my first time hearing about it. So my first marketing thought was if there was a way to encompass that a little broader and be able to showcase that. Goshen Arts and all of what they're doing, I thought that was a great first option. I enjoyed seeing over the 9 years they've been able to, work with so many artists, 40 to 50 during this time period. It was just phenomenal to me. I also enjoyed the being able to showcase the artist support. And I'm always a big fan of accessibility on all levels. I appreciated that as well. And I enjoyed seeing how there are other paid artists, but there's also other artists that can benefit from that as well. It seemed like a high number than some of our others. I enjoyed seeing that. Oh, I'm so sorry, my comments. And again, the serving other communities outside of the Elkhart County area was nice. And their links, their marketing is great. Just thought it could be extended a little bit further. And I believe those are my comments. Project management was great. I'm always a big fan of, if you can have staff assist, that would be great. Those things can get, as we love our volunteers, having a staff being able to lead that to make sure nothing gets fall through the cracks is wonderful. And I feel the timeline seemed appropriate, and as well as their budget. So thank you.
Thank you. Mary Woodward, any additional new or opposing comments?
Only one additional comment. It sort of piggybacks on something she already brought up about their marketing. And the only weakness that stood out to me was a lack of video of their original performers. It said they have original performers in the music field, and it would have none of their examples in this application included any type of a video of that, and that would have been beneficial to see the level of expertise of their original performers. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. We'll open it to the rest of the panelists. Does anybody else have any additional comments? New, opposed? Marty, I see you unmuted.
All right, I got one real quick. This is not directly related, but just something to think about. Is it would be nice if it was easier and more, more links, like what Mary was saying. More links would be nice, and the links are kind of awkward in this system. So maybe next year the links can work better.
All right, Rachel, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, also adding on just a little bit to marketing, I wanted to call out that the website was super clear and easy to navigate, but on like posting on social media, I would have loved to see more active engagement during the off season. I think that would be a really cool way to show not only the impact, but also to reach new audiences and drum up excitement for future events.
Great. I see Shannon's hand up. Shannon, please unmute.
I noticed they added interactive activities for the public and kids, and I think that is a great way to get families more involved. So I thought that was great observation on their part and great problem solving to get more families to the event.
All right. I think everybody has chimed in. We'll ask you make your final score for the Goshen Arts and Events application. Please make sure and hit save. Raise your thumb. Mary, did I miss your thumb? Yep. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for completing that application. We'll move on to our 9th, the Goshen Community Chorale Incorporated. Our first reader is Marty Lucas, and our second is Mary Perrin. Marty. Marty, you have to unmute. Sorry.
This overall, I thought this really just checked all the boxes for me. The artistic quality is excellent. And just sort of a background, mid-December events are lifeblood of many performing arts organizations, particularly music and dance. They're great, but sometimes the nutcracker can get stale. And, every kid needs to see the Nutcracker, but maybe some people have seen the Nutcracker a couple of times and they'd like to see something else. And this is great in that regard. So in terms of content and the professionalism of the people involved, and then we get a Peruano, you get like, a Peruvian artist. It's not just Latino, but it's a major South American country that maybe we don't hear enough from. So I thought that was just great. And then the combination of original music composed for the program and traditional pieces is a great way to, both get tradition and culture into the organization and also originality without overloading people with too much new stuff all at once. So I just think that's excellent. The materials were excellent. The posters are very lively and they're bilingual in a very accessible and friendly way, not bilingual in a way it looks like they didn't want to do it, but bilingual in a way that really draws people in, maybe even people that are like myself, English speakers with a little bit of Spanish, so they could try to practice their Spanish a little. So all in all, I just can't say anything about this other than positive ones. I loved it.
Thank you. Mary Perrin. Please unmute.
Okay, there we go. Agree with Marty. This was very solid. Can tell you take the feedback to heart and really appreciate the way you involve that your director, your accompanist, your instrumentalists and soloists drawn from the local community. I thought that was fantastic. Just again, checks a lot of the artistic boxes. Let me just scroll down here. And I was really impressed with the willingness to take the feedback to heart. As Marty said, trying to serve two diverse audiences, the Hispanic population and the more traditional stereotypical audience for this type of programming is very challenging, but you're rising to that occasion with your bilingual advertising and printed programs and expanding that outreach next year. I think having a dedicated volunteer to manage your social media will help with that. And as for the QR code direct to the online surveys, which was something you offered, and it sounded in the grant application like maybe that didn't go over quite as well as you had hoped. Maybe just some simple instructions during the pre-show announcements for your patrons to understand how those work, because that learning curve for some of the audience members might be just a little bit steep, but applaud you for embracing that technology. Also just had a question. The marketing budget at $250 seems to be a bit low. Maybe you are able to do a lot of outreach through inexpensive or free mediums, which if you are, good for you, and by all means use that, but maybe bump up the marketing budget a little bit to get a greater reach. Again, a dedicated volunteer to manage your social media will really help. And spending just a nominal amount on targeted social media advertising for future events, you can target that bilingual community. You can target people within a certain geographic spread or whatever. It's very helpful to be able to zero in on some of that for not a lot of money, which would hopefully give you a good return on that investment. But overall, very solid, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Mary. Maybe to increase QR code surveys, there's an incentive.
I like that too.
A chance to win a ticket, or here locally, places do that and they can win a pie. I mean, who doesn't want to fill out a survey to win a pie? At least I'm all about that. But anyway, I digress. Let's open the application comments to the rest of the panelists. Mary Woodworth, I see your hand up.
One thing that stood out for me with this application that I did not recall ever seeing before on any application, not just with this organization, but with others, was how, as they are planning the year coming up, they are also looking at what is going to happen next in the future. They're not just planning 1 year at a time. The emphasis is on the current year coming up, but they always have the eye with what we're doing this year and what we will also then be doing differently next year. I think that's a strength for this organization and for this application.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments by any of our panelists? Corey, I see your hand up.
Again, I want to second, I was so impressed by seeing the flyer that had the bilingual marketing on that. I feel like I can take that to heart a little bit here in my own world. I enjoyed that. There was one comment that I did want to make, and if I missed it visiting their website, if they're working on trying to include different our Spanish speaking population, they may consider adding a translator of some kind to their website as well. I know that the flyer can do justice, but if they're hoping to continue outside of this project, it might be worth looking into Google Translate. Sometimes those cost very minimally, if not free. I just was very impressed by that, as well as this project too. I'm excited to see its progress.
Thank you. Any additional comments? If not, we'll ask you make your final score for the Goshen Community Chorale Incorporated. Please remember to hit save and share when you're done. Corey, did I miss your thumb? Oh, yep. All right, great. Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to the Mid-America Filmmakers. Our first reader is Shannon, and our second is Corey. Shannon, please unmute yourself and share.
Okay. I just want to make sure that Marty has left, because I have written down that there is a conflict of interest. Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
you're right. Marty has left the building.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so let me just scroll here. The artistic quality is very high. The applicant stated that the clear goal of bringing storytellers and filmmakers from around the region to share stories and their passion for film. Very clear. And I think this benefits Indiana by bringing these storytellers from around the world that otherwise we would not know about or be exposed or be able to see their films. So I do think it benefits our area, even though a lot of the artists are from other regions. Yep. Okay. And let's see where else. Okay, so this is something that I really loved. The applicant provides transportation to the local retirement communities for senior citizens to be able to view the screenings. I think that is just a great way of reaching the communities that don't otherwise have any way to see this. So that was really just great to see them, including the senior citizens and the retirement community. Okay, and then the surveys and input from filmmakers around the world is collected and utilized to improve future events. I think that is just invaluable, and that's just a great, I'm glad that they explained that in their application, and I just love that they paid attention to that detail. I think that I would love to see more details of behind the scenes planning of the event. For example, when are advertisements and social media posts created? When and how is the community made aware of the festival? But other than that, I just thought this was also just a great thing for the community.
Thank you, Shannon. Corey, what would you like to add?
Great review, Shannon. I agree with this. This is what a great opportunity for our region in Indiana to filming is a way of art. I'm not always thinking about that in my world. So I feel like this is a great opportunity for those that are not necessarily from Indiana to come and share our story here. I enjoyed that. They seem to have a great in attendance, and the benefit to artists. Their social media while viewing, they seem very active. So I liked seeing that. And if I missed from my marketing background, I don't know if they had any flyers related to that. I know this is on the Notre Dame campus. So I know that there's a lot of alumni and student base that maybe get the word out in different ways. I think I didn't have any other comments. If there was any flyers or any type of physical marketing that is done for that, I would like to have seen a digital record of that. But I agree with Shannon. This is a unique event, and I really enjoyed the artistic quality of it. Especially the
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, storytelling's great.
No, we appreciate that. All great information. We'll move on and open it up to the rest of the panelists. Anybody have additional comments? New, opposing? Mary Woodworth, I see your hand up.
They mentioned working with the college students who hope to go into the future of filmmaking. And my questions concerned how involved are any college students in the planning process? And also the timeline that was mentioned earlier. What is their timeline of when they are actually working with those college students in relation to when this festival is actually going to take place? Because I felt that it's a very well-planned project, but on this application, there was nowhere it mentioned that whether these college students have input into the actual festival or if any college student was on the project management team. And as a college student, I think that would be very beneficial, not only to the students, but also to the organization if there was a college student on their project management team. That's all.
Thank you, Mary. Any additional comments? If not, we ask you make your final, oh, wait, Mary Perrin, did you have a comment? Unmute.
Of course I did. Let me just jump back to this. I just wanted to highlight one thing that jumped out at me that I thought was fantastic. The idea of waiving fees for films from countries that cannot access money transfers is just at the heart of diversity, and just want to, just give them props for doing that. And that's all I have additional.
Thank you. Now, shall we go ahead and final score? Anything else? All right, let's make our final score for the Mid-America filmmakers. Make sure and hit save and let me know.
I'll stay.
All right, we're all done. We can let Marty back in from the Zoom room, and we'll move on to our next one. All right, Marty's back with us. Our next application is the Northern Indiana Clay Alliance. Our first reader is Mary Perrin, and our second is Rachel. Mary, take it away.
Okay, let me get into my comments here. Let's see. Oh, wrong application. My computer is doing bad things. Let me just jump back into this real quick. I apologize.
No problem. Take your time.
Let's see. Thank you for your patience. Oh, come on. Where are you? There it is. I really like the self-guided tour because it is perfect for a medium like pottery and the intimacy of being able to visit with the artists in their studios. And I think the growth of this event over the past decade is really remarkable. And the budget, the main use for the grant money they are requesting is to advertise into larger and more expensive markets, which, if done successfully, will further strengthen what is being done. And I get a strong sense of community from the participants, and the inclusion of diverse artists, many of whom have either moved here permanently or returned as paying contributors to future events, I think is really, really great. Let me see, keep scrolling here. And very impressed also with the amount of data that's been collected from prior years and how that's able to be used to help events grow from year to year. That is just invaluable information, and impressed that you've been able to collect and reference and, you know, use that year to year. And again, I see as far as the marketing piece, because that's what the grant request was specifically for, I see radio and print ads in the budget as well as print marketing materials, and was just wondering if there's any plans to do any sort of targeted marketing on social media platforms, which can be structured to target specifically people with an interest in pottery and the arts who, for instance, live in Detroit. And you may want to consider just a mix of the traditional, you know, but also, albeit more expensive, network television, radio, whatever, and newer social media type of ads to really zero in on your demographic. It was not specific where the advertising is going to go, but just keep that in mind, especially as you're getting into those more expensive markets, to just really be laser focused with that if you can. But I thought it was very solid, and that is all I have.
Thank you, Mary. Rachel, any additional comments?
Absolutely. So for artistic quality, I wanted to note that the commitment to featuring both established and emerging artists offers not only a variety to the attendees, but also serves as a strong networking tool for the participating artists. And that, I think, is always, whenever there's opportunity for kind of that meeting and networking, is something to celebrate. I also wanted to note that I noticed on the website your commitment to diversity statement. And I know that character limits in these narratives can sometimes be restrictive, but even summarizing or mentioning it in the narrative would be great in case that were ever missed by a reviewer. I think it was important, the statements that you made, and so I want to make sure to call those to light. I'm also really intrigued by the group guidelines, and then also the opportunity for individuals to structure in a way that makes sense for themselves that you had mentioned. And I'd love to know kind of some examples of how artists have made adjustments that help meet their own personal needs within that structure. I would love to know a brief overview of the planning committee members, what their strengths are in relation to the listed responsibilities. The timeline is incredibly detailed, and I wanted to note that it is scheduled to debrief and collect survey feedback. But you just may want to consider including when that survey feedback will actually be reviewed. And then I didn't see any expenses related to event space and rental. And my assumption is because there aren't any, but those spaces are donated. So I would include that as an in-kind expense, because in most worlds, you do have to pay for the place where your event's going to take place. So if that's being donated, make sure you throw that in that in-kind section so that we can kind of see that and understand how there's going to be space for this. And then also, I noticed that payment to artists was projected at $2,000, but I didn't see that reflected in the expenses. So clarification around that number would have been helpful to really get a clear picture of financial benefit for artists involved.
Good catch. We'll open it up to the rest of the panelists. Any additional comments, opposing viewpoints from any of our panelists?
I just wanted to say one real simple thing. I really appreciated the quality of the photographs of the work. They were excellent. And that's something that, you know, that I think it's really important to communicate something like this. You say you got pottery. Well, this is really extraordinary work. And the photography showed that.
Good to know. And I see Shannon's hand. Shannon, unmute yourself and share.
I might have missed this, but I just have List other staff or volunteers who help with the event and assist Trevor Daughtery. The workload of an event this size just seems too great for one person to carry on their own. So I might have missed where they listed that. I see a great background on all of Trevor's experience. I'm just hoping he has some help for the event.
It's my understanding there that all of the artists take different roles, but I could be wrong. Corey, I see your hand.
And this is just a note. I believe this is the only new applicant that has yet to receive any art support from ASE for this grant. So I was glad to note that they have been doing this event for, what was it, 12 years? And this was their first time coming to Indiana Arts Commission for a grant. So I was impressed that and happy that they took the opportunity to do that. And I second Marty. I'm a big fan of their marketing for this. It was a great event. So those are just a couple comments and positive comments there.
Thank you, Corey. Are there anything else? If not, we'll ask you make your final score for the Northern Indiana Clay Alliance. Make sure and hit save. Let me know. Shannon, yeah, okay, we're all set. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll move on to our next application, which is Premier Arts. Our first reader is Mary Woodworth, and our second is Marty Lucas. Mary, take it away.
Okay. It's taking my computer a moment to bring it up. All right. One thing I did notice that it is a very well articulated narrative. However, it did take me a while to ascertain to what degree each numbered item had been addressed. It required multiple rereads on my part. That could perhaps just be my inexperience. But as I say, there was something about it. I'm sorry, I can't put my finger on it particularly, but it just was not an easy read for me to ascertain all of the information. Other than that, I felt they did a very good job of answering all of the questions to a good degree. And I believe, as I mentioned earlier, numbered responses format. This one did not so much follow the numbered responses format, and it really is helpful when they are in the format that the IAC has provided. It does make it much easier for the panelists to be able to ascertain the information. That's all.
Thank you, Mary. Marty, what would you like to add? Oppose?
I have a couple things to add to this, starting out, and I guess I keep going back to artistic quality, but this one, I thought the artistic products appeared to be of a rather commercial type. And I don't have a problem with commercial art, but I think Arts Commission money should primarily go to, I think that's where your artistic quality comes in to the play. I think that's what they're asking, I guess. And in this case, I wasn't sure that it was going to have a big community impact in terms of artistic quality. It says that another one is artistic support. I wasn't that sure. It says there's going to be 20 artists benefited, but the total amount was $150. I didn't see how that made sense. That doesn't add up to much. And, these are musical operations. So obviously that's not enough money to have any impact on that. And I thought the community involvement was good. I was good with that. But one of the things I noticed on their promotional materials, at least when I got there, their video was disabled due to an alleged copyright infringement. Now, I'm not criticizing the alleged copyright infringement because those are robot robots do those and they hear like a song in the background and they'll disable your whole video, so that, I'm not saying that they infringed anybody's copyright. I kind of doubt that they did, honestly, but I think that they should have probably noticed that their video was disabled and done something about it. So I mean, that kind of, I'm sorry, that's a little negative. And finally, the info on the programming was, I thought, a little sketchy. It didn't say, it said the headline bands were major parts of this, but I don't know who the headline bands are, and I don't know what kind of Indiana connection they have, if any. So maybe that's kind of peripheral, but I think if you're going to support artists with Indiana, with IAC grant money, that normally they should be Indiana-based artists. So those are my comments.
I see Shannon unmuted herself. Thank you, Marty. So Shannon first.
I noticed on the budget section, all I can see is just the cash income. And if I try to click on it and scroll, it won't allow me. So it appears to me that the cash expense and the non-cash contributions have been left off of the application.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good catch. Rachel, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I was gonna note the budget. I didn't know if that was a glitch on my end, but it sounds like it's not. And then the other thing that I wanted to note, even if artists aren't finalized yet, again, you can include potentials, people have participated in the past. And then I was able to confirm that some of last year's artists were based in Indiana, but that was based on digging that I did on their websites. I had to click around quite a bit to find that. So just if you have characters left in your narrative, including, this person's from Indiana or this person's from this city, always helpful, just something to consider.
Yes, Mary Perrin. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, I agree with the budget part. I had looked for that as well and had missed the rest of that. So please just double check and make sure those details are included. And again, it just very vague as to who's going to be there. A lot still seems very fluid. And that just, raised some, I won't call them red flags for me, but maybe some pink flags about, how together is this? I like the idea. I like the concept, but it really does take a lot of time to pull something like this together, especially if you're trying to attract performers, if you're trying to attract folks like that, because their calendars fill up very quickly. So just be mindful of your planning timeline.
Good to know. Are there any additional comments? If not, we'll ask you make your final score for Premier Arts. Make sure and hit save and let me know. Are you still working, Mary Woodworth? Oh, no, you're done.
It's finished.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No problem. Thank you, everyone. We're on our last application now. This is the Ripple Effect Vocal Visionary Project, Inc. Our first reader is Rachel, and our second reader is Shannon. Rachel, take it away.
Yeah, so I wanted to note that the group discussion and survey collection methods show a really strong commitment to gathering feedback. I appreciated all of that being included. And then also seeing the very broad backgrounds of involved artists demonstrated how this program really reaches people in different pockets of the community. This is picky, and it's not necessarily about this application specifically, but it is. I was having problems with one of the links, the way that it was input. I was eventually able to find it, but a note for the system, if you attach a PDF with links in it, we can directly click them. If they're kind of put in the box, then things get weird sometimes. So to clarify, I was eventually able to view the link. It just took some creative work on my end. And then also thank you for including the various samples. Those were really, really a joy to watch. So I did ultimately, after I got to view them, really enjoy it. I also wanted to note that work in educational settings provides a clear example of reaching students and youth as an underserved population. I'm excited to know where that's going to go for you. The inclusion of various strategies to increase accessibility for many groups was really thoughtful. The strategies that were included really, I think, will reach people from various underserved communities. So that felt very intentional. Facebook page looks very active and really shows the work that you're doing. And then just including kind of like the overall number of concert attendees would help show the overall impact on the community. Timeline was incredibly detailed, and I appreciated the inclusion of reviewing surveys as a pre-scheduled element of your program. It shows that that was really intentional and on your mind and something that you're going to take to heart. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate that. Yeah, after reviewing 13 applications, the ease of finding the information from a panelist viewpoint is good to note. So thank you all who've made those comments. Shannon, you're our second reader. Please join and share.
Okay. So I just wanted to mention that they seem to have a cohesive community engagement, and they are breaking down the barriers and thinking of creative ways for all to access the event. They share the event online, and that makes it accessible for all. Moving the event away from the church, though it increased their expenses, I just thought was a really loving move to make for their audience. So I very much appreciated that. They kind of made a choice that wouldn't make sense financially, but for the sake of their artists, they did that. So I just thought that was a really loving thing to do. And yeah, same, just, the comment about the PDF, that yes, that is very helpful. And I think that would be very helpful for the applicants to even better understand, like, oh, this is the way that I can do that. And I think that would have made it a little bit easier. But those are all my comments.
Thank you. We'll open it up to the rest of our panelists. Any additional comments, new or opposing, that anyone would like to share? Mary Woodworth, I see your hand.
I just had one under the artist support, the benefit to artists. Maybe I misunderstood, but I didn't quite understand the info on the artist compensation, exactly how they were compensating, through whether that was through a stipend, an honoraria, or if it's just the public recognition.
Did any of the other panelists have, Marty, I see your hand up, unmute.
My comment was on the same thing, actually. It says $400 to two people, so two people get $200. And I thought, direct artist compensation is one of the factors, and so it wasn't strong in that regard.
Shannon, you unmuted. Yes.
Yes, I do. I did miss this in my comments, but I did say it's not clear on the artist budget. The choir volunteers their time and talent, but who are the two artists who are paid? And do they split the $400, or do they each get $400? So that was one of my comments. So yes, thanks for reminding me of that.
Rachel?
I'm scrolling as quickly as I can. They did note the
No
two
worries.
people that are compensated for that in the narrative. I can't find exactly where it was, so I can't tell you exactly who it was, but I do remember that was noted.
Any other comments? If not, we'll ask you make your final score for the Ripple Effect Vocal Visionary Project, Inc. Make sure and hit save. Let me know when you're done, and we will continue. All right, thank you, everyone. We will ask our panelists to stay on, but this does conclude the review panel. Thank you for tuning in for all of our online listeners. Applicants will be notified of the status of their grant in June following the Indiana Arts Commission quarterly business meeting. If you have any questions in the meantime, please contact Kayla Myers at the Community Foundation of St. Joseph County at 574-232-0041. On behalf of all of the panelists today, we thank everyone, and thank you, panelists, for your time. We hope you have a great rest of your Monday.